What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Bobby Fi here. Sheets will be here hopefully for the live show later. He's going to be out this morning. We got to start off with a huge congratulations to Sheets for last night. He tied for the lottery on DraftKings. Chopped it for 60 something thousand. We've been on absolute fire, but Sheets is like, this is getting crazy, man. He's just absolutely dominating. Really interesting. And again, it shows the advantage of having different projection sets and different things like that. But I did want to say, like, we're going to be raising the prices of our packages pretty soon, and we're going to have more offerings that may be better for some smaller time players. But if you're really thinking about it, I would encourage everybody to join us as soon as you possibly can. This is a really we think it's a really great offering, and you're gonna be grandfathered into all these other tools and all this other stuff that we're adding in the next couple of weeks, certainly before baseball or right around that time. And I would encourage everybody to check it out. Between Sheets and I, we've been winning almost every night. Somebody's winning a big tournament, and it's really hard to win big tournaments consistently. And I really I don't like to oversell or want to say, hey, this and that, but in the last since the beginning of the year, we've just been absolutely crushing it. And I hope you guys can come along and join us. And one of the things I've been doing is going into the Discord just for our members and doing I try to do the late swap stuff, but I also do the showing exactly how I'm approaching each slate. Now, last night was not great because I did not do well. I'm changing the projections on certain players and everything like that, and then letting SaberSim cook outside of maybe the 20 guys who I want to either lower or increase their projection, sometimes a little bit more. And Sheets just using his projections has just been absolutely dominant. So I really would encourage people to check out the packages. And I think we've got a great offering. We also still do have that $10.99 trial for those of you guys that has everything. Those of you guys who haven't used it, we can't use it twice, unfortunately. But I really, really believe in what we're doing here. I'm thrilled for Sheets, thrilled for how everything's going for the TrueDFS, and would love for you guys to be a part of it. So try and think about joining. Take a look. We feel that we're competitive in relation to everyone else. We've got an incredible amount of content, and we're not charging that much more than SaberSim for everything SaberSim has, not to mention all of our own content as well, whether it be Sheets and Goldie's projections, all of my stuff, all of Brandon Cruz for NASCAR, all of Adam Perry for NHL and the LOL and all the other sports, along with Sheets does that as well. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I think that we're right there. So I really hope you guys would give us a chance. And another just huge congratulations to Sheets. He's awesome. He's become one of the best DFS players in the world, and I think there's a few of us. Anyway, so I hope you guys can join us. And great job to Sheets for taking it down yet again. And hopefully we can repeat it, whether it's myself, whether it's you guys, or hopefully a TrueDFS site member will take one down tonight. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so and right before I get into sharing my screen and going through everything, I'm going to talk about a couple different things right off the bat. Danny asking a question: do you ever fade a team, or how do you get your player pool from SaberSim? I like I said, you could literally just run the SaberSim projections and contest sims. If you're using the contest sims, you're going to, in the long run, be a profitable player. I change the projections of the players that I think that maybe I think the projection's off, or that I want more exposure to, because maybe there's something I see in the matchup that doesn't make sense. Sheets goes more based on his raw projections, which have just been fire. It's really hard for them to stay updated for every half-hour slate, so I do still use SaberSim personally for all that. But I'm not a person who hardly ever X's out a player, or unless I think that something's off with the projection or something like that. But I'm not Xing out teams. I'm not selecting few teams. I'm setting less rules. I'm just changing projections, and I'm trying to correlate a little bit more. I do my hand builds as well, and I do tend to go to a little bit more correlation from similar games. As I always say to everybody, 5% of games going to the end in the NBA go to overtime, and not that you need a game to go into overtime just for it to be high scoring and back and forth, so you have plenty of outs there, but that extra 5 minutes can get you an extra 30 or 40 fantasy points. Now, 5% may not sound like much, but 1 in 20 is pretty often when you're thinking about you're playing 7 to 9 games on most of these slates. I just think that people really, trying to find ways to correlate, but mostly what I'm trying to do is let SaberSim cook. They're taking a lot of the things in with my dropping in my hashtag no ball knowledge in on the projections of the certain players that I like. So with that said, I'm going to get into the slate. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I know we've got some new names in here, and we do appreciate it. We're doing more stuff behind the paywall now, because we do want to cater more to our members. So I'm keeping, I'm getting out of there earlier on the live before lock shows so I can talk to our members directly and they can see exactly what I'm doing. We believe in transparency here. We talk about everything that we're doing exactly. Now, it all changes in the NBA based on a player being injured even after lock or whatever, but you guys will know where I'm at every step of the way. And that alone, I think, is worth something. Not to mention that all the other stuff we're offering. Anyway, that's my obligatory sales pitch. Not even sales pitch. Just I really believe that it's an offering. So hopefully you guys will take it seriously and take a look at it. Anyway, we're gonna get into this slate. All right. Talking first. So I'm just going to point out a few things. The early morning projections can often be a little misleading. This projection of this Oscar Tshiebwe, we're going to project him at 33 fantasy points as a median on a 20-minute game. That's not real. These numbers are going to come down. They're a little bit off. So what we run early in the morning obviously will not be close to what it looks like when we talk about this later at 6 Eastern time. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Right now, Minnesota and Charlotte starting off there. The projections are going to have to update because Randall's going to be out. Minnesota should be able to handle Charlotte. They've lost. I think they just broke the record. They had a 3-game stretch where they lost by 141 points combined, which broke the previous record by like 10 points. I mean, that's pretty hard to do, to lose by an average of like 40, was it 43 a game? 42.7. So that's pretty hard to do. Anyway, assuming this game does stay close, it is a back-to-back. Going to end up loving Anthony Edwards tonight. Going to end up loving Naz Reid tonight. Probably going to end up having to think about some Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker stuff, depending on whether value opens up. But first glance, I know these numbers are going to update, and you're going to see a big projection, I think, out of Anthony Edwards, closer to 50. And I think he's going to be a very, very good piece of chalk. You just got to hope the game stays close and you get your full fourth quarter out of him in a back-to-back situation. Nothing that really stands out on the Charlotte side of things. LaMelo, you could talk me into as like a low, just because of the low ownership. I think it's kind of interesting. I think Mark Williams at low ownership is mildly interesting, although I just don't trust his body holding up in general. So I don't really get a great feel for his minutes. It wouldn't surprise me if he played 22. It wouldn't surprise me if he played probably not much more than 30, but maybe 32. But right now, I think Edwards is my main takeaway from the first game. So here's where you're getting all of your ownership and all your kinds of stuff. Keontae George was announced questionable this morning. I think there's a reasonable chance that he sits, which is just going to open up more. Guys like Isaiah Collier, who may not look as great right now, I think that's going to be a really popular play if Keontae George is out. Bryce Sensabaugh is going to make sense either way. I think Filipowski is interesting. This Tshiebwe thing is going to come down. There's no way you can have an 11x projection on him. I'm not saying he can't get to that number, but in 20 minutes, unless you think the guy is like Jokic, I don't know how we can project him at 33 fantasy points. I don't even think the 20 minutes is real, because that means you're saying we're only going to get 27 out of Filipowski. Why can't Filipowski play 32 and Tshiebwe maybe only play 16? Either way, he's going to look like a good play because he's 3K flat, the minimum. But if this is a play that I just want to see where things sort of balance out later today, especially we get the Keontae George news. It's going to make guys like Svi, who don't look like anything, look like a better play. But Collier would be the one that I might commit to the most if we do lose Keontae George. And fortunately, it's a first game, so you're going to get a lot from this game in general. So I think that at least we'll have the information before slate locks. On the Washington side, a lot of stuff looks really good too. I also think this is an aggressive projection on Sarr. I still think it's a tremendous play. Just again, an aggressive projection. It's an aggressive projection on Champagny. I could definitely see this being like a little bit exaggerated. Maybe we don't need to quite go that high. But with, there's not enough else out. It's almost like they're speculating that George and Holmes will be out. I need more clarity on who's in. But as of right now, I think you're looking at this as like a natural game stack. Both bad teams, both tanking, but both don't play defense. They play pretty quick. And I think starting off with it like Sarr makes plenty of sense. Again, you're going to see a lot of good center options. I've already named 3 of them. We're going to get to a lot more. So you're going to want exposure to this game pretty much no matter what. It's just hard at this hour without knowing about Kaishan George and Keontae George, for that matter, whether they're playing, as well as Rashawn Holmes, where if he's out, then Vukcevic is going to become the other 3K value chalk at center. So going to have a lot from the early games today, more so than usual. Again, I love the delay idea, but sometimes you just can't find the way to make it make sense. So it's a back-to-back for Cleveland after they struggled in Chicago who rested everybody. And as I said, sometimes when they just rest everybody, it makes you feel like they have more of a chance. And they did have a chance. They played that game pretty well, Chicago. And Cleveland kind of struggled. So Miami on the back-to-back, it's a plus matchup. And maybe this 18-point spread will keep everyone away. I think there's an argument for playing some Tyler Hero and some Bam. I certainly could see myself getting into that. Nobody else who really stands out to me, but I think that you could talk yourself into hey, if they are going to stay close in this game, these guys are going to have to put up monster games. I think that's very reasonable to take a shot on both Hero and on Bam today. Again, it'd be long shots. There's going to be other better plays, but that's something that I'm certainly considering. A little confused. We have Garland doubtful, so this is going to be again where everything looks a little different a little bit later today. So we've got Garland doubtful. Mobley's probable to be back. I think Garland being out is a huge boost to everyone, but Ty Jerome would seemingly be the main beneficiary. And I think Ty Jerome, Donovan Mitchell, they're going to look like great plays once we actually take away the projection from Garland and get all this stuff sorted. So I do think that getting maybe one of Bam or Hero, I think I kind of prefer Hero, but it's pretty close. And then getting some exposure to Ty Jerome on the other side, maybe with a Mitchell or with a Mobley out on the second of the back-to-back, even the Jared Allen too. I think it's a very reasonable game to take some shots at. I'm curious where the projections go after we eliminate Garland, who is doubtful today on the back-to-back. Portland and Boston. Look, this game is not as huge of a spread as you might have thought. Portland's been pretty feisty. I don't think that for DFS purposes, there's anything that stands out. I'll just throw out my disclaimer that you can always take shots on guys like Shaedon Sharpe, who just has a monster ceiling. I just don't think I'm going to end up being able to get there. Certainly not on DraftKings anyway, on this particular slate, but I wouldn't write it off. All right. Boston side, you got some Q tags with Brown and Tatum. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them sits. Obviously, if one of them sits, they're both very reasonable plays. They're pretty reasonable plays anyway, to be honest with you. I don't know if we need to do the Luke Cornett thing. Like I said, center is really strong, so I think it's fine. Maybe it's an interesting way to get different at center, but it's not something that I'm looking out to go out of my way to prioritize. But again, as always with these morning shows, especially with Boston on, against teams they should beat, we're going to have the Q tags and very possibly one of these two sit. We already don't have Drew Holiday. This might be a slate where right now I'm not getting Derek White as much, but I think Derek White's going to end up looking like a really good play. And I think Peyton Pritchard's a very reasonable play as well. But again, would like some clarity on Brown and Tatum because this could end up being a really good spot. We just don't know yet. And maybe that spread tells us a little bit of that too. Portland has been feistier, but still, I think that Boston still ends up, taking this. They would be favored by more if they were a little bit healthier. Dallas and Milwaukee on the back-to-back here. I am very confused of what to do with Dallas, to be honest with you. I don't know how we're supposed to figure this out. We're gonna try to guess on some rotations, and from what we've seen, there's talks now about tanking and stuff. Kai Jones is what we will assume is going to be the answer at center. Another great value option. Again, you're going to end up with center and utility in most of your lineups, and that's, I think, the right way to go with what's out there. Brandon Williams at 3K, probably going to be coming off the bench, but the one I'm a little surprised. I really like this Max Christie play. Now I know he's going to have some ownership, but I think you could argue for going higher. I think that like Utah, if I was building right now, I would want at least one from Utah, at least one from Washington, at least one from Dallas. I think that is a rule I could set and feel pretty comfortable that I was getting at least a reasonable core, because all of these guys, are going to look like decent plays. Dinwiddie, for me, I prefer Christie the most. Christie and Dinwiddie are pretty close for me, actually. I do really like Najee Marshall, and I just think all the way through, you got to consider a team with. Look at this injury list. I mean, Jesus, talk about maybe karma. It's wild. We'll see if Caleb Martin, he's doubtful, but I don't think he's going to play. But I really think that with Dallas with 9 guys, maybe we even want 2 from Dallas everywhere. I'm not sure which 2 yet, but my first leans would be some combination of Kai Jones, Dinwiddie, and Christie, maybe taking a shot with Brandon Williams and Najee Marshall. I mean, they're all in play because there's just not enough bodies for them not to be. Surprisingly, they're only 10-point underdogs. That basically lets you know that one of Lillard or Giannis is sitting. There's no way they shouldn't be like 17-point underdogs in this game, even with Milwaukee on a back-to-back at home. I just don't buy that one of these three is sitting. Maybe two, probably not all, but that's going to dictate everything. Now, obviously, if Lillard sits, we're playing Giannis everywhere. If Giannis sits, we're playing Lillard everywhere and Kuzma. If Kuzma sits, bump to Giannis and Lillard if they both play. I'm not sure that they will. I don't think they will. I'm guessing based on this point spread that you are not going to have all these guys in the lineup tonight. I would be very surprised if, in fact, they all were. All right, Sacramento and Denver. Nothing really that I love from Sacramento. I'll just throw out that Zach LaVine at fairly low ownership on this slate is mildly interesting, and I think that DeRozan, it's just a ownership play, but we know he has a ceiling, and it's a matchup I could see him having some success. Now, I'm not like saying I love it, but I'm just looking at the 1% ownership. If that's going to be the case, then I think we can do some business with it for sure. But I don't think I'm going to get to the Joe Val tonight. I get it. It's logical. I'm not saying he won't have a monster game. He very well could. He's got a huge ceiling. We've seen Jokic give up big games too. It happens. But right now the priority would be LaVine, if anybody, even though nothing stands out. And I kind of like the idea of just getting overweight, a little bit of that DeMar DeRozan, a little bit of the, I mean, look, there is no Sabonis, so to not bump those guys up a little bit more. I know Joe Val's got reasonable usage, but I think that there's a real argument to playing somebody from Sacramento, even though the projections don't love them. With the value out there, Jokic is the other center option. I think he's a tremendous option, and I don't think we need to go into why. The guy, what's he projected at today as 63? It's a plus matchup, and he averages 66. I'll bump that number up probably later on. Other than him, Aaron Gordon, if he's a go, I'm in on that one. I'm in on some Westbrook. It's a good matchup for Westbrook, Porter. All these guys, it's a good matchup for. But again, need clarity on who's actually playing. And Gordon and Jokic, if either of them sit, obviously it's a totally different slate. I hate to say that for every game, but it is a first look, show, and that's just sort of what we got to deal with. Nothing is standing out. Now, here's the spot where I think here's where we can maybe do something. 9-point underdogs at home for Memphis. That's a lot. This is a spot where I do think you want to play some Shea. Definitely would like to be over the field. There's lots of value out there. The reason Shea doesn't average more fantasy points than he does is because they beat the hell out of it so many teams. And I mean, like, he's just coming off 73. If you force him into a tough game, a tough situation, he's going to put up huge performances. So I love Shea. He's the main one for me, but I don't mind the idea of getting to some Holmgren as well. Holmgren's going to have a wide range of outcomes in general. Maybe I'm biased because he won me the lottery on Thursday last week, was it? Yeah, Thursday. I think it was Wednesday last week. So yeah, maybe back-to-back week Wednesdays he can win there. So I do like both Chet and Holmgren. I'm sorry, both Holmgren and Shea. Again, though, it's like I want to remind everybody this. Look at this. Look at the total of this game. It's 251.5. Memphis is one of the fastest teams in the NBA, and I think we got to bump up. And by the way, you know who else I didn't mention? I kind of like the Jalen Williams idea too. All of these guys, I'll bump up everybody on the OKC side. Not to mention it's a later game, so I can late swap, give me some more swapability if I can get off some of the early games. But I really like the spend ups here. Ja Morant, I love tonight. Now, we haven't seen the same Ja from years past this year. We haven't seen the monster ceiling games quite as much. Close games, though, tough wins against guys who he feels like he's a better player than, and guys like Shea. Even if he's wrong, I'm just saying that's how these guys think. I love the idea of getting to Ja or Bane in this matchup, even though, look, they're a great defensive team, OKC, but Memphis will play at a fast enough pace. The game should stay competitive, and I think that those guys are really interesting. Edey is another one of the center options that I don't know what to do with today, to be honest with you. It feels like an aggressive, not an aggressive projection. It feels like, look, there's a lot of other guys who are in standout, potentially huge boosting spots. I don't know that Edey stays on the court for, what do we have him at, 26 minutes? It's possible. I could see him playing 30. I could see him playing 18. Both feel like in the range of outcomes to me on this particular slate. You don't need to play big against OKC. If Memphis wants to try and run them out, they might just use guys like Aldama Brandon Clark as the fives in those situations. And yeah, so a delay as much as you can, but I like this OKC Memphis as a stud spend up. I like the long shot play of hey, maybe it can stay close with Hero, and we'll see what Cleveland has, looks like value wise after we get everybody out. But the main ones you're starting with are Utah, Washington, and Dallas because of the lack of players available for them. You're just going to want some exposure to each of those teams. That's sort of like the core you build around that. Do you mess with teams exposures? Sometimes, but not that often. How should you use the min uniques? Depends on your level risk tolerance versus how many lineups you're entering. I often like to do 2 or 3 min uniques if I'm playing a bunch of lineups because I'd like to get some. It's not going to change your core so much, but it will spread you out to some other stuff. It's a little bit of a safer, maybe not as risky way of playing. My natural way of playing is risky anyway. So it's sort of like, for me, I feel like it's a good hedge to try and use a few min uniques to answer those questions. But Danny, if you're a member, just you can ask these questions in the Discord, and there's a lot of people who, a lot of people know even better than I do about the projection side of things. I'm just good at knowing my part of it and then letting it cook the rest of it, because I do have my own takes a little bit more than a lot of people who are just using the projections. Although she's just using his projections with the SaberSim builder obviously has been the nuts basically. Again, it's too early in the day to really. I don't know, for whatever reason, SaberSim is going to have to get this straightened out. I have an email into them already, or a message into them already. They're not including the last game, but there is the last game on FanDuel today, unless somehow it was canceled or something and I missed something. So I'm sort of waiting on that. Like I can't really run or talk about anything without us including the 10:30 Eastern game, which is the latest game on the slate. So that's where I'm at. No, 4 is not too much. There's no raw rules. The worst thing you can do when you're playing DFS is try to think like everything is the same. Like, oh, I'm a guy who does this. No, 4 is too many. 5 is too many. I don't ever want more than 3 from one team. That's just not a real thing in the NBA. It's all different every slate, and it's actually not really true for anything at least nothing that I play. There's no just hard and fast rules for any of this stuff. So anyway, guys, that's just an early first look. Again, shout out to Sheets. Great job. Just killing it. We've been on fire. Check out the packages. It's awesome. We're happy to help walk you through anything. In addition to all the things that we're offering, we really do try to help each individual, and we answer every question that gets asked. Sheets doesn't always have time to get to every question in the Discord, but Goldie, myself, Rody, Brandon, we'll be able to help you out and steer you in the right direction. So appreciate all you guys very much. Let's make some more money tonight. Go team TrueDFS, and hopefully one of the subs will take a big one down today.